All right, guys, can you hear me? Sorry about that. I just forgot to turn on the YouTube. Okay, you guys should call me if I'm not there. Sorry about that. All right, sorry about that because I already started and I forgot to turn on the YouTube. So I'm going to start one more time. All right. Sorry about that. Actually, I already started the lessons, but I guess I forget to put it into the YouTube, and that's my big mistake. And so let's get started from now. And the first thing is like um, because today would be the last lesson for this term, and after that we are going to the next week we will have a final test, and we will solve one small problem, and I guess you can just finish in 15 minutes. And after that, I will send you a certificate about the Python certificate. And now I just want to go through what we learned in this year, and we so far we learned. I'm gonna pull out these things. So yeah, that's what I want you to see is like this. So far we learned something in Python is only one thing. We learned about variables. So what variables do is like they can hold all the values. They can hold values, and they can hold one value, like a single value, or they can hold multiple values. So what I mean here, a single value is like they can hold a number, for example, is integer or float. And they can also, the variable can hold, you can put a string into the variable, or you can put the boolean or bool, true or false, into a variable. Or you can put something called compress. It's also one of number into a variable. And for also you can have later you can have something about date or something about that. Basically, they are also the object. So for multiple value, and we learn about list, right? And also learn about dictionary and about class. So what class do? They basically is also an object because we use the class to create an object. Okay, we use class to create an object. So for tuple and set, they're pretty much like the list because they're not that quite different. And tuple just you can change the list because once you do you create a tuple, and you can never ever to change the value, the item in the tuple, and that's why they use a parenthesis to wrap it. For the list, they use a bracket to wrap a list of values. So for the set, and it's just an order. There's no index, so you can use the index to access the value in a list of value. So they're pretty much the same for like the links. And they also have the dictionary. The dictionary is like a key and a value and key and a value. So if you want to access that value, so you have to use a key. So like it's like a door, you have to use a key to open the door and you can get into the room. Okay. Also, you have the class, and what class mean is like you define something, like you define a class, but that class is not going to be a real thing. You have to use an object by using the class. Okay, so yeah, if you can hear me, and you should let me know once again. Okay, so let me just go back to the Python in W3 schools. So we'll go through one more time for everything we learned. And so the first thing we learn is variables, right? Variable is easy. They are going to just have a equal sign, a symbol called equal, and you can assign whatever value on the right side. So the left side is a variable, and the right side is a value. And we call the equal is called assign. You assign a value to the variable. Okay, you assign it to the variable, and you can assign different data types. So what they have is here, they have string, like the text, and you have integer, float, and also we have a Boolean type, and also there's some binary types. We haven't used that yet, and I'm not going to cover that yet. Okay, so for the multiple values, you can have a list, tuple, or range, or you can have a dictionary or set. Okay, so so the number is easy because we already learned in the math, and it's just 1 or 2.8, which is just have like a decimal. You have a dot, but they call it float. And why is calling float? Because in the computer, and they thinking the decimal is they're using some calculation and use the float calculation. Okay, and also we learn string, and string is much more easier than you think, because string is just like a sentence or a word, but they have to one condition, they have to wrap it by a single quote or a double quote. So you have to wrap it, otherwise the Python doesn't know is a string. Okay, you have to wrap it, otherwise the Python thinking that might be a command, like a print or the other command. And the other thing is, like, you can wrap it with triple quote, like 3 quote, and so that you can have multiple lines, and 1 line, 2 line, and second line. Okay, and also we learn some operators, which is just like the math, and you can have plus, and using the plus you can do 1 plus 2 equal to 3, or 4 subtract 2 equal to 2, right? So you can have multiply. So when you use multiply, they are not using the x, they are using a star, because the x is here is really the x, so they can't use the x, so they use a star. Okay, for divide, and they use the /. And what tricky here is that they have something called percentage here. What percentage do is just like they do the remainder. For example, like 5 divided by 2, it should be equal to 2, but they have 1 as the remainder. So which means 2 plus 2 equal to 4, and plus 1 equal to 5. So that's why we use this one to go to get the remainder equal to 1. Okay, but when we go to have the if else, or while loop, and we always need to compare things. So like I want to compare two variables, two variables, or two values. So you have to use like this one. Is double equal, is not one equal. So when we use double equal, it really means equal. Okay, if they have a exclamation here with the equal, is saying not equal. Is x is not equal to y. 1 is not equal to 3, so it's not equal. And now you have greater than and less than. A greater than is like from this side to that side. So how could you remember what is the greater than or what is the less than? So my trick is like this. I show you. So when I read this side, and if something here is like two open, right? You open one point and two, like they have two end. So this side you have one end. So obviously is 2 is bigger than 2, 1, and that's why I'm thinking that is greater than. And for less than, because here is only have one end, and the right side have two ends. So 1 is less than 2. That's how I remember is less than. Yeah, that's how it helped me to remember. But in your way, you can do whatever you want, right? You just remember how to say that is greater than, that is less than, and the tricky part for here is greater and equal, which means 2 might be greater or equal to 2, but 2 obviously is greater and equal to 1, right? They always 2 is greater than 1. Just include the equal one. And also when we do the condition, if you want to have two conditions, so if you want to have two conditions, they have the relationship between them. If for example is n, if x is, for example, if x is equal to 1, so 1 is less than 5 and 1 is less than 10, so they both are true, and when they combine together, they combine with each together, it would be true, right? So but the next one is called or. So the same thing, it's just like you have two comparison, but any of them is true, it will be true. You know what I mean? For example, if I have x is equal to 1, so x is less than 5 and x is less than 4, so obviously that is true because both conditions are true. But for some things, like if x is equal to 4, so this 4 less than 5 is true, but 4 is equal to 4, and it wouldn't be, and for this condition it would be false. But since you use or, because one of them is true, then it's true. All right, so that's why we saying the whole one is true, because the left side is true, no matter what will happen for the right side. Okay, so you got what I mean? For the n, it's like they are they have to be both true then true. All right, so I think it's pretty much like the mathematics you learn from school, and not that different. And also they have something called not. Not, you just flip it over. For example, inside the not is like inside the parenthesis, anything true here, it will become false. If anything is false here, it will become true, because they just turn the true to false, turn the false to true. So not that hard, not that different. And also they have something called is, x is y, and just like the equal sign, the double equal. It's just, are they equal or not? It's something like this. All right. So, but they also have is not, like it's not. You can use is not. Okay. It's just some different kind of version to say equal or not equal. And also there's something in or not in. Also interesting. It's just for the object, which we haven't learned yet. So we learned last week though, and we're going to skip this part for now. And also there's some called bitwise, and I'm not going to cover this one yet because it's much more harder for you guys to understand at the moment, and because they do some calculation about the binary. So once we learn the binary, we will talk about this. And then we learn list, and the list is easy because they just have multiple items but wrap it by bracket. Okay, and tuple is wrapped by parentheses, and for the set is wrapped by a brace. And not that hard, not that tricky. So we learn dictionaries, because dictionary is like you have a key and you have a value, you have a key, you have a value, you have a key, you have value. And if you want this value like the year, you have to say this variable and put a key here inside the bracket, and now you can get 1964. So I'm going to show you just real quick here, like here, right? So if you want to get the year, you just like do year, because the year have to wrap it by this the code, single code, or either single code or double code. You just wrap it by the single code or double code with the bracket. So I run it, and then it will get just 1964 and 1964, because I just want to go to this value. So all the Python is just about variable, and you have the value and how to put the value into the variable, and then you can access it, and you can do calculation with plus, subtract, multiple, and divide. Okay, so for the string, you may just combine two strings together, something like this, and not that hard. And also we learned something called if else. It is a condition. It's getting a bit harder because you have to type if and then a condition, because in this condition we call it expression, and it will return true or false. You have to return true or false. If it's true, and it will jump into this block. Inside the block, you have to have two space in front of it, okay, which called indentation here. Okay, you just have two space or four space, either way. And then you have to put if and in front of them in the condition and make the condition. And also you might say, how about I have two conditions? If you have two conditions to do, you can use else if, but they make it like ELIF is else if. But most of the language will do else and space if. But in Python, you just do ELIF, ELIF, all right? And for the last one, like the last condition, like in front of the else, they have all the conditions. And if none of these conditions match the match, and it have to go to the last condition, the last condition. So it's saying if none of them is good, and then I will go else and just jump into this this block. You just maintain how to go to different block of code if the condition is matched, and then you go this, and if you matched here, and then you go here. If you match here, and you go here. All right. So then we learn something called while loop. Is much more harder because when it's called, we saying looping, it's just like jumping a rope. You jump when you jump a rope, and then it's 1 and 2. You count it like that, and it will be the same thing like a while loop. You just like you jumping it, jumping it, jumping it. You can jumping it forever if this condition is be always true. So what I mean here is like if this one is always be true, like it's always to be true, and this loop is going to be forever. You just keep doing this same code block forever. But here, because it's saying I is less than 99, and every time the I will keep increase 1. So they do this one, like plus equal is just a shortcut of I plus 1. But since you write twice I, right? So some programmer, they are pretty lazy. That's why they're saying, oh, why should I write twice of I? So I just do this. So it is pretty a lazy thing, a shortcut for you, just doing like a plus equal to 1. And then you just run it. And for a moment, it will be just all the way from 1 to go to 98. Because there's no 99, right? Why there's no 99? Can someone just tell me why there's no 99? Because I should be less than 99. If 9 equal to 99, and this condition will be false, and I'm not going to jump, or I'm not going to do this loop again. So if you want 99, you have to say, how about I have to be less than equal to 99. So I will just add one more equal here, and I'll try again, and I will get 99. Hopefully you can see my 99. I'm not sure you can see it or not. Yep, here you go. And now you can see 99 because it's you have to be equal to 99, otherwise it won't show 99. Yeah, that's good. And now we finish this while loop, and sometimes you want to jump out from the loop. You don't want to like always jump 99 times. How about I jump just 50 times? I want to get out of my jumping loop. So what am I going to do? You just saying you have to break it. You said you break it, and then if you just jump out from the loop. Okay, so that's what is a break do. And there's one statement called continue. So one continue is like once you jump and jump and jump, and you jump a little bit, and you saying, oh, let's do continue. Continue is like you are not continue to do the rest of them, and you directly go to the next run. You go to the next loop. So it's just like you continue and you stop here, but you're not breaking the loop. You're not going to stop jumping. You might go back to the while loop here, and then you continue from here, and here. Okay. Hopefully you still can remember what we did. Okay, but like the if else, they also have else. If this condition doesn't match, they just go to the else. So not a big deal. It's just like if not like this condition, and you go to here. So I barely use this while else. So nonsense, because you can use if else. Why use while else? Okay, but you can use it. And then you have for loops. For loops is like you have a list and you want to look through all the items in the list, and so you use for x in this list. So every loop will use one item. Like the x will be the variable to take this item, and this item. So I'm going to try it one more time. And how about here? I just add cherry, banana, and kiwi. So I just add kiwi here, and in this for loop, it would be show the kiwi, because for the first one it would be apple, second one would be banana, and then cherry, and then it will be kiwi. It's just like you are doing this code block again and again until you finish all the items in the list. And now obviously you can look through the string, because the string looks like a list, but they just for each item it's just like one character. Okay, that's why they just use for loop. And also like the while loop, you can use break, because break just break the whole loop. They're not going to continue with it. And then you should be continue. You just skip one of the jump, but you have to continue. And for the range, we use a lot, because a range can create a list, a number of lists, like 6. It would be 0 to 5. Okay, because we in Python, for list or for string, they always start from the index from 0. So that's why we count from 0, 1, and 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they're always from the 0. If you're counting from the backward, here would be 0, and here would be -1, -2, -3, and then that's why we jump from backward. And we also learned function, and function is pretty much very easy, because you just have a keyword called define, def, and then you put a function name with parenthesis, and inside here you can put the parameter. What a parameter means, it means just like in this parenthesis, it just looks like a window. So from this window you can pass the value from this window inside the code block, inside this function. And that's why when you calling the function, and you have the parameter, or here they call arguments. So either way, you can call it parameter or you can call it argument. But in the function and this variable, or you can say that's arguments, and you can pass the value through this argument. And then when you do print, and it will take this value, like for example here my function, and once you call it and you pass the value from the arguments, and that's why you have email, emu recess. Nonsense, I don't know what this word means, but you just pass a value, and then you come here, and then now you will output sentence and combine them together. That's called function. And there's a shortcut for the function, and you can define them in one line, but it's anonymous. We didn't cover this yet, but you can imagine it's just like some lazy guy. They don't want to make it in multiple lines. They just want to define it in one line, and then they pass it to this variable, and this variable just looks like a function name. Okay, it's not that hard, but the syntax is hard to read. Okay, then we learn lists, and that's just the arrays. And now we come to the class, and in the class it's hard because class is not like what we learned before. Class is like something about like a commercial in the TV, and you never ever can assign a class to a variable, because if you want to assign it to the variable, you have to create the object. You have to create an object. So what I mean create an object is like last week we have the exercise about a phone, right? I saw a commercial in TV, and they are saying, oh, you can buy this phone or an iPhone, and my iPhone can have a install the app, like have a map or calendar or calculator or photo, or of course you have an album, or you can send messages. And they have the function to take the photo, and they also can send message. And you know there's a phone in this world, but you didn't really have a phone. So how could you have a phone like this iPhone? You got to go to the store, go to the for example, I go to city center. There's all West Emily Mall. There's iPhone store, Apple store, and you go to the Apple store and you buy an iPhone, and that iPhone is real. It's a real iPhone, and that real iPhone is like you have to create an object. So what we say in Python is create an object, and then you have an iPhone, and you buy an iPhone. So then you can start using your iPhone to take photos, and you can use the class to take the photo, because it's just like they're telling you they can take the photo, but not until you create the object, the iPhone. You really have the physical iPhone. You can take photos, you can send message, and of course in Apple Store they don't have just have one iPhone. They have multiple iPhone, or they even can sell you the Samsung phone. So that's why we can create. I can go to the another store, like for example, I go to Terrace store and I buy a Samsung phone. Okay, so you may even have a Samsung phone. So now you have the Samsung phone, and you can take photo with your Samsung phone, or you can send message from the Samsung phone. But like for example, if you take a photo in the Samsung phone and you go back to the iPhone, you can't see the photo in your iPhone because you use the Samsung phone to take the picture. You got what I mean? That's how we do the class, because the class is like you define something, but you use whole different value in different object. Like the iPhone, they hold their own values. Samsung phone, they hold their own value. They may do the same function, but this function will change only themselves. The values inside we call like for example, you change the photos, you change the message, or you may install in app 1 install a game like Minecraft Pocket, or Candy Crush, or whatever app you install in your phone. Okay, but you only affect your iPhone, or you only affect your Samsung phone. You change your Samsung phone or change your iPhone, it doesn't affect either. Once you take a photo with your Samsung phone, it will change. Use your Samsung, use the album only in your Samsung phone. Okay, hopefully you get the concept about that. All right, and there's an example here. There's an example. Let me see. Delete object pass blah blah blah. So not quite important. All right, so let's just go through this person example, and it's pretty much like our phone. And they said a person. Let me just change the person. Is not like that. Let's just change to human. So in your textbook, for example, when you learn the biology and they talk about human, right? So in the human, you just learn it from a textbook, and it's not real, not physical. Not until you use the human class, you define a human class. So we will create a person called George, and his age is 36, and then you get a real George, just a real George. Okay, let me zoom it in. So that's how we do with the class, and you learn it from the textbook. You just define it, and you never see is a real human. Not until you create people. You use the human class to create human, which is myself, is George. Okay, so once you call the you create, and you will call the function call initial, and they tie it like this way. You have two underscore in the front and two underscore by the end. So you have two underscore init and two underscore by the end. Okay, and in the arguments of this function, we wrap it with parentheses, of course. Now the first one, it would be always be cell, because that cell is referred to this object, this variable. Okay, this cell means this one. Okay, this cell will mean this one, and that's why you have the cell dot name equal to, like for example, I just changed this parameter to be A and this parameter to be B, and I put A here and I put B here. So the first parameter would be my name, and the second parameter would be my age. So once I create the human to be George, so I have George as the first parameter or argument. Now you have B as my age, 36. And of course, I can define a function to speak. So I just speak, or introduction, or speak, or whatever you want. And then you would say, how about I speak my name, and how to speak my name, because remember this one is myself, George, and my George's name, which is come to here. Now that is the in your school textbook. Here is just the textbook to define a human. Here is the real world in Edmonton or in Vancouver, and that's the real world. And then you do George. Now you can speak. I will speak, and then I will say, hello, my name is George, and I'm gonna run it. So I'm gonna run it. Now I run it, and now it's saying George is not defined. Okay, because I spell my name wrong, so it should be George.speak. So it would say speak this function to cell.name. Okay, so how about you say I would define another people called Jenny. Let's just say Emily, and she also a human. And now you have Emily, and she is 13 years old. And now once Emily speaks, and she will say, hello, my name is Emily. And if I run it, you will see, hello, my name is Emily. Okay, so I saw in the chat box Optimist is saying what is in need. So one more time I will explain to you. Init is a function. So whatever you use the def, and it will define a function, or you can call it a method in this class. But whatever, in this function or this method, and we use some special, very special function name, like with two underscore, one underscore, two underscore, the second underscore, and then you have init, and then you have this two underscore behind it. So this function is a constructor. So what constructor means is like when you create an object using the human and passing the parameter, it will pass to this function. But remember that the first argument or parameter here, it will be cell, which is this guy, the object. We put it into cell, and then it comes with the second one. It will be go to George, and then 36, my age. It will go to the B. Okay. Hopefully you understand what I'm talking about, and why it's called constructor is like they are going to construct this human into George, or you would say is initialized George. So you can think about human as you can think about this human is like you this process when you create an object is like my mother just give me a birth, and then I will become a real human. I'm a George. Okay, so hopefully I understand. And during that moment in my mom's tummy, and once I was born in the hospital, they will give me name, and of course the age would be 0 after 36 years ago, so it would be 0, right? It would be, but they give me a name called George. So that's George in hospital was born. And at that moment, when George was born, and they do the initialization to me, it's going to be the name is George and the age is 0. And then I was born. And I was born. And also, if you, like, for example, you define a function called dref and get older, so every year you get older, like up past your birthday, so you should have age, your age, self, because my age, dot my age, we plus 1. Okay, you plus 1. And if here, so let me just remove these two guys big, and we George dot get older. All right, get older, because George will get older. And after get older, one time, you call it one time, and you will see George dot age, and it would be 1 year old. So you would have 1 year old. Oops, something wrong with this website. Let me just hey guys, I may just copy this part and put it into repair it, or if you have the PyCharm, you can use your PyCharm. Okay, so where's my repair it? Let me just copy it here. Okay. Right, so I would be okay. So yeah, if I get older, and my age should be 1 year old, because originally I was 0 age after I was born 36 years ago. So I can have 1. And now let me change a little bit here. It's saying I am George and plus in and plus, and you have the year, my age, so you will say self dot age dot plus and years old, years old. So if I do George dot speed Georg. Now I will say, if I speak, I will say I am George in 1 year old. And it's saying something wrong here. Cell name I am in, because it's not, oh yeah, because my age is a number, right? So I have to convert it to a string. And now I call it one more time, which is saying I'm George and I'm 1 year old. And also, if you are keep getting older, so like George dot get older. All right, so if I speak again, and I will get 2 years old because I just getting older. Okay, hopefully you guys understand what I'm talking about here. And now I will give you like about 5 minutes, and you can change this code a little bit. And you, of course, you will define a human class. Now you and you probably don't use George because George is myself, right? You probably use your name and your friend's name, and then you have them to getting older. And once they're getting older, and what if they talk and they speak, they introduce themselves, and you show the message saying, "I am 2 years old. I'm George in 2 years old." So something like this. Okay, so hopefully, yeah, I will give you 5 minutes, and once you're done, please let me know. And again, if you define a class, it's just like class space, you type human, and then with the column. So, and then you define a whole bunch code here. Like the first one is to be the constructor called init, and the second one is speak, and the third one is getting older. So this code might be a little bit longer than you think, but I want you to finish it in 5 minutes. Okay, so yeah, you don't have to use the tags, so like you can remove this. I just want you to know that is what does it mean. Like you define something called class, and you don't use it until you create a human like George, and when he was when he was born, he should be in the age of 0, and that's why we initialize his age to be 0. And my dad and mom named me George, so when I was born, I got a name called George. And of course, I am getting older because my age is just increased, and I would be from now I'm 2 years old. Hopefully, I'm older than you. For anyone who have already have the PyCharm, please use the PyCharm to do that, because yeah, you should using the PyCharm for to doing your coding once you are getting better, because this website is just for you to do the exercise, and what I want you to do is just like you should use the PyCharm, the more advanced tool to do the coding. Now I see some guys already finished, but we will take 5 minutes because I will wait for everybody to do that. Yeah, you can continue to work on that because that is funny if you think about if this is not a human and it is a game character. For example, you define a game character. For example, I like Super Mario, so I define a character, and so I can create a character as Mario or as um, the other roles in the Super Mario. Okay, so that's how they when they do the game or the other things, they can define multiple characters, but they are pretty much the same. They would have a name and they have their strength, they have their health, and but they might have different skill set, and that's how they use them. You can define a class, and now you can have this set of code to create different characters in a game. And that's one of the meaning to have a class. And once you understand how we do with that, you know how class do, and then it will help you to organize your code because they just duplicate this piece of code again and again and again, and they can have their own version of variables. In here we call it properties, or we call it also you can call it attributes, but yeah, it just you can understand that it's just a variable attached to myself, like George or Emily. If Emily getting older and you call the Emily dog get older, she will become 14 years old. All right, so hopefully you understand what I'm talking about in the class. All right, so yeah, before we are going to end this class, we will have one more concept. It's about inheritance. Inheritance. So what inheritance mean? What inheritance mean? So inheritance is just like for example, my dad, I inherit the hair color from my dad because he got the black color of hair, so I have the same like black color of my hair. Okay, and his eye is big, so my eye is big because I inherit from my dad. And also I'm tall, so my dad is tall and I inherit from my dad. So that is called inheritance. And in Python they will do the same thing. They have the ability to inherit from one class from the other class. So what I mean here is like why do we need the inheritance? Because once you have defined the one class, now you can have a second class, but pretty much like the first class, and you can change a little bit about that class. So we will jump back to our same human. So we have the human. So now you can have a class of, I will have a class of male, that's just male, or you can have a class of female. Okay, and what we do here is like what we do here is like let me see if create a parent, and then you can create child. So what they do here is like they have this one. They put the parent in here. Inside the when you define the class, they put the parent in here. So I will do the same thing for my human class. So I would have parenthesis, and I define a class called male. So I put human here. So this male will inherit all these things from human. Okay, from human. And now what you do for the constructor, so let's just for the constructor like this one. But now here is a bit more harder, right? So for the constructor, so I will do the same thing called def, and I will have int. Then I have cell again. Now I have A again and B again. Pretty much copied what we have here, initial. Okay, for this initial, but I want to do exactly what the human do, right? So how am I going to do that? So you go with this kind of thing, or with this kind of thing. So let's just learn the super function. So the super function is like, so I'm going to type it first. So I'm going to express it to you later. So the super means the parent will initial with A and B. Okay, here is a little bit harder than you think, because this male is inherit from the human, and this one is my dad, and this one is, and now I am going to inherit from the human, so the male will inherit from the human. But for the constructor, you should do super, the super with the you calling the super function, it will stand for the human, and of course you can just mention, like in here you just mention, let me show you, just saying human dot initial. So how about I just change to human dot initial. But you should understand there's something called super. It's just like every time you would do the super, it just stands for human, the one of the parent constructor. Okay, and now you can do the same thing. For example, for myself, now I will initial from the male. Okay, from the male. So because I'm a boy, so I'm a male. Okay, and then I will have the same. Get older, I will speak the same. So I just change a little bit, define another class which is inherit from human, because I am a male, a boy, and then I inherit from the human. And now I'm gonna run it, and there's something wrong. A and B, and what's wrong? Let me see. Okay, they have to put the cell here, all right? So You might put the shell here. And now I run it one more time, and then I will get exactly the same thing. I am George in 2 years old because I just changed the mail. Okay, so let's go through what I have been changed here. What I changed here is like I have a new class called mail, and this one inherits from human, and what we defined before is a human. So I'm a male, so I define one is called human. But what you need to do is, because you should initialize, or you should create an object for the male. So that's why we define the initialize a constructor by calling its parents constructor. Okay, so that is how the initialization do in Python. So we have human because you inherit from that, and you should do also initial the human, and so your male class will do the same thing like the human. Okay, and that's why I, instead of using the human, I use male, this class, and create a boy for George. Okay, so I want you to change this one in 2 minutes, and I'm going to create another class called female. Okay, called female, and then you will understand how the inheritance do. You just like copied the whole set of code and making another class. All right, so I give you 2 minutes. What you need to do is just change this part and also this one. And I know that is this concept is a little bit hard, and that's why we put it in the last class, and hopefully it won't confuse you, because we are more getting close to the intermediate level. Well, again, next week will be the final test, but in July we will restart the same program, but the same program will just repeat the same term, same thing like what we do in these few months, and that is we will repeat the same thing. But I know some of you is getting better, and you might have to go to the next level. And in this level, it's just like getting started, and it's cover the basic concept in Python, and it really doesn't that hard. And for you and for someone, they come in the might miss some classes during this term, and you still can welcome to join the next term for this Python get started. Okay, and for here, we are since we are learning the class and the object, is this concept is much more harder than the usual programming, and it's called OOP. It's called object-oriented programming, and it's much more harder than the regular programming. So this concept is just come out like probably 20 years ago. So it's harder than you think, because we have the class you can do inheritance, and you can just override the method, the function you define in the parent class, because yeah, like we will learn about that. Okay, so yeah, of course we will continue with this, and I think the code is much more easier than you think. So I am going to define a female class, and of course it will inherit from the human, because female also human. And also I have init and self a and b, okay, because a and b just an argument. And for here, because I put a human here, is kind of ugly, because why? Because I don't know why, because they just think, some programmers just thinking it's ugly, so they use super function here. And you use super here, it's just init, and you don't have to put the shell here, because super function will use just the init called a and b. All right, so that's why I changed Emily to use the female to do the super. But you will think there should be they should be different, right? So that's why I define one more properties here. Is called gender. So the gender is like here is boy, okay, I'm a boy. Male is boy, and female, the gender is obviously is girl, okay, it's a girl. So that's how the difference became between the parent, the human, and in here my male function will be, the gender will be boy, and the gender for the female is a girl. And that's why I will like instead of speaking, and I may just show you George dog gender would be a boy, and for Emily gender should be a girl. So you will see boy and girl here. So I'm going to run it, and female object has no attribute of gender. What the why? Let's see. So I have shell. Oh, I come back here, see if I'm missing something or not. So I come to add one properties here, and now I would have, let's see this super. What does super do? Oh, okay. Yeah, my mistake. So the gender is not a function, it's just equal to assign a girl to the female gender. And that's what I am getting wrong. So what I change here is just like I add one more properties, or you would say a variable inside a female. So when I run it, so it will show the first one is a boy and the second one is girl. So that's how we change from the human, and you inherit from the human, you still can speak like a human, and you also have different gender. So let's just change a little bit here. Now you can have a speak function, or let's just add one more function for this one. Like I'm going to add one more function, if f and let's just, for female, they like to do they have like, so for female they are doing better than a male, for example for cooking. I just have the function called cooking. Okay, now you would do print Emily is just doing cooking, something like this. All right, so I just want to show you how to there are difference between these two classes, male and female, because although they are inherent from the human, and you in their separate function, the class, they can define their own method, their own function. So for example, if the female, they are good at cooking, so you can have family cooking, Emily dot cooking. Okay, and now you see boy and girl and doing cooking. So I will show you, and boy and girl doing cooking. But if you do George dog cooking, and it will fail, because in the male class you didn't have the cooking function defined, neither defined in the human. Okay, so that is the special function in the female class. So once I run, it will show you the error. So I run, and it will say the male object has no attribute of cooking. So the male function doesn't have cooking. But you might do, for example, define a function for male like climbing up the tree, climb. So always put a cell here, because that is the convention for the class. So you would print climbing up a tree. Okay, now you can do, instead of cooking, you just climb up the tree. So once I run it, you should have the first one, Emily, is doing cooking, and the George is just climbing up the tree. So that's it for today, and I'm going to show you the code, and I will explain to you one more time. And today we learned something new, because that is much more harder than before, because that is called object-oriented programming. it is harder than before because we use inheritance, and this technology will be copied the code from one class to a new class. And in this case, we copied from the human to make a male class. And also we use the female, we define a new class called female to copy the code from human. So male and female are all human, and that's why we inherit the code from human, and we inherit it. But they always do is like have to, if you want to define their own properties or variables, so we have to have the constructor, and inside the constructor you must calling the parents in a constructor like the initial function, and here you use human dot initial and put the cell A and B. And why we need to put the cell here? Because once you create the object like George, and they will put all the way through this cell back to the human. Okay, hopefully you got what I'm saying. But Python, they do a trick here, because some guys saying, oh, why should I always doing like this way? So they put the super, and this super function, and then they just call initial and A and B without a cell. Okay, that's how we initialize a female and initialize human. You can do either way, human or super, but either way you can do it. And now we have the define the gender property. So for the male, of course, is boy. For the female, of course, is girl. And that's why when we print George, which is inherit from male, Emily is inherit from female, and we show the gender, George is a boy, and Emily is a girl. And we also define some function called for Emily, and she have the function. She have the ability to do cooking well, and then you define Emily.cooking. And I define the male have a special or have a very habit to climb up the tree. So that's why I define a function called climb. And then I will do George just .climb. And then if you print out this word called climb up a tree. Okay, and I think that's it for today. And what I want you to do is just finish this example for this week, and for next week we are going to have a final text, and that's it for this term. And you are good to have your vacation then. All right, so if you have any question, you can join me in Zoom. Okay, and if you don't, and sorry about that, I just getting much more later. I'm over time today because at the beginning I don't know, I didn't turn on my YouTube, so you can just join us. Sorry about that, guys, and you have a good day. Bye, guys.
George?
Yes. Hey, Michael. How are you?
Hey, I already got my Discord running, so can you like tell me the tag?
Oh, you want me to invite you to the Discord, right?
Yep.
So give me 1 second. So first I'm going to stop my YouTube because I don't want everybody
To hear it.
to hear you.